Today, we're going to take a deep dive into a fascinating redesign of something we all have, but probably don't think about too much: the chimney. This is the G2-Home Chimney, and it's a system that's designed to make your fireplace way smarter, a whole lot warmer, and believe it or not, cleaner.
So let's kick things off with a simple question. Just picture it. You've got a nice, cozy fire going in a traditional fireplace. You can feel the warmth on your face, but where do you think most of that heat, that energy, is actually ending up?
Well, believe it or not, the answer is pretty wild. In most standard setups, an incredible 90% of the heat from your fire just goes straight up the chimney and disappears into the cold air. Yeah, 90%. That is a massive waste of energy, and it's the exact problem this new design is setting out to solve.
So how do you even begin to fix a problem that's literally been around for centuries? Well, this is where the G2 system gets really clever. Let's take a look at its first big innovation: the heat-trapping core.
You know, what's so cool about this slide is you're seeing the idea in its purest form. The whole design started with just one question: what if we could somehow grab all that escaping heat before it gets away? This simple sketch, this is where it all began.
And the answer to that question? It all comes down to one key component: a whole series of winding copper tubes. This amazing material is the absolute heart of the entire heat-trapping system. Okay, so here's how the magic happens. Instead of a straight shot up and out, the hot air and smoke are forced to take the scenic route through this maze of copper tubes. Now, copper is fantastic at conducting heat, so it basically just pulls the warmth right out of the smoke as it passes by. Then, you've got these heat-reflecting walls that make sure none of that captured heat escapes into the wall behind. Nope, all that rescued warmth gets bounced forward and pushed out through vents right into your room, which is where you want it in the first place.
But look, a brilliant idea is one thing. Turning it into a real, practical product that you can actually install in a house, that's a completely different ballgame. So now, let's see how this core idea blossoms into a fully modular framework.
And this comparison just shows that evolution perfectly. On the left, you've got that initial spark of an idea. And on the right, you see how it gets engineered into a real system. That core principle of trapping heat in tubes is now built into a structured, and maybe more importantly, a totally customizable framework.
So how do all these pieces come together? Well, the whole thing is built on a steel wire frame that acts as the backbone. The real workhorses are these exhaust modules. They're the stackable boxes with the copper tubes inside. You connect them with simple couplers and secure the whole thing to the wall with mounting brackets. And to make sure the smoke keeps moving in the right direction, a small, low-power exhaust fan gives it a gentle push upwards.
So why does all this modularity matter so much? It means a chimney is no longer this one-size-fits-all thing. You can literally tailor the height and the heat output for any home, just by adding or taking away these exhaust modules. It makes the entire system incredibly flexible.
Okay, so we've figured out how to heat the room way more efficiently. That's a huge win. But what about the smoke itself? Turns out the G2 system has another major trick up its sleeve, and this one is all about cleaning the exhaust before it even leaves your house.
Let's take a look at the smoke reduction chamber. Really, you can just think of this thing as a high-tech filter for your fireplace, one that's engineered to pull nasty particles out of the smoke before they get into the atmosphere.
It works using a cool scientific principle called an electrostatic precipitator. Now, I know that sounds super complicated, but the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. It just uses static electricity to pull dust and soot right out of the air. It's basically a magnet for smoke.
So here's the play-by-play. First, the smoke, which has already lost most of its heat to the copper tubes, enters this chamber. Second, a humidifier sprays a really fine mist of water into it, making all those little soot particles wet and heavy. Third, and this is the key, a set of positively charged static plates are waiting. They attract the now negatively charged wet dust particles like a magnet, pulling them right out of the airflow. And finally, the clean air heads outside, and all that captured gunk just drips down into a collection tray that you can easily clean out.
All right, let's put it all together. Let's follow the full journey of both energy and exhaust through this completely re-engineered system, right from start to finish.
It all starts with the fire, right? That's where the heat and smoke come from. Then, heat capture. The copper tubes grab that thermal energy to warm the room. Next up, exhaust. The now cooler smoke gets a nudge upwards from a fan. After that, smoke reduction. The particles get zapped by static electricity and removed. And the final result? Way cleaner, cooler air gets released outside. See? Every single part of the process has been totally rethought.
And this really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? By systematically rethinking every single stage, from capturing the heat to cleaning up the smoke,
Can a piece of technology that's been with us for centuries finally become a truly clean and super efficient part of the modern home? A design like this makes you think, yeah, it's absolutely possible.